All right, getting down to business here. We got the Week 7 games. First one, Mountain Conference, huge game. Clearfield still undefeated in the Mountain. The tough AAA District 9 team at Tyrone. Obviously, a very tough place to play, and both teams are really going to have their hands full.
Absolutely. Clearfield, one of the best AAA teams, and actually the best AAA team in the whole area. They come out of District 9. They play in that sub-region with our District 6 teams, the City League teams of Pittsburgh and what have you. But Clearfield, they're being recognized amongst the state's best in AAA. Some have them ranked. I have them ranked in my state rankings, which you can see on the D6 Sports Network. What we got to saw them play, one player that really stuck out to us was the quarterback, Christian Lezer. He can really do it all. He's a running threat, passing threat. He's just a big play waiting to happen. And we're going to really see if Tyrone's really made that improvement after those first two tough losses in the Week 1 and Week 2.
Yeah, absolutely. This kid could definitely do it all. Lezer, 757 yards, 12 touchdowns through the air, 642 rushing yards, and 10 touchdowns on the ground. So really, you're getting a really dynamic player here again. But this Clearfield team is a big team. They're obviously AAA, and they're going to give Tyrone, I think, all they can handle this week. In my opinion, obviously Oliver is, lights out right now for Tyrone, the running back, but I just don't think that Tyrone's going to have it in him. Obviously coming through 4 straight wins, but, this Clearfield team, very well coached. We were up there in Week 2. Jim, what do you think on them?
What I'm looking for out of Tyrone is, where is Eric Wagner, the quarterback? What has he done to improve since that Week 1 game? Mm-hmm. He was really not a factor playing Bellwood in that huge rivalry game. For the past couple of years, they had the luxury of Franco at quarterback. He's a Division I quarterback at Akron right now. So you go from that to Wagner. He's just a junior. He was thrown into the fire against Bellwood Week 1. So where has he made his improvements from then to now? Obviously, the offense is clicking, but a lot of that is aided by the running of James Oliver. So you want to see if he can become a factor, because Clearfield, what they're looking to do is they're going to try to shut down Oliver at all costs and make Wagner beat them. Can Wagner have enough throws to make it happen? He has Wilson Adams on the outside. He has Hayden Zook on the outside. Can he get those guys involved, maybe make some plays? It's going to be interesting to see, because when we saw Clearfield, they're a built, complete team. They have size up front. They're well coached. Coach Janoko does a tremendous job with that whole team. Can they stop Oliver, and can they make Wagner beat them?
Yeah, Jim, looking at last game for Tyrone, Wagner had over 130 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. It's tough to say, it's tough to rate that type of performance without seeing the game film, but, you're totally right. Clearfield, they were bringing the blitz against Central Martinsburg, and obviously we saw what, Central Martinsburg put up huge numbers, but Eric Wagner's a junior coming in his first year starting quarterback. That's going to be tough against this Clearfield team who has beaten Johnstown the past 2 years in the playoffs. So this is a this Clearfield team very well experienced, and I think they're going to know how to win this game coming in.
Absolutely, but what we saw out of Clearfield in that game against Central, they're susceptible to the big play. Mm-hmm. We saw Cunningham and Moore break big 50, 60, 70-yard plays. We know Oliver, he's a good up-the-middle runner, but once he gets the outside, he can break almost any play. So, Clearfield, from a standpoint, they can't let the big play happen. They can maybe let a 20-yard play happen, but they can't let that 40-yard play happen. And that's what we saw what Central was able to do. They scored a lot on big plays. Tyrone's probably going to try to take a little bit of Central's game plan, and maybe, we saw in that game, we saw Austin Cunningham, the quarterback, line up at receiver, kind of threw him off guard, and boom, he had 2 touchdowns at receiver. So, look for Tyrone, rather, to do some things like that. Get Wilson Adams involved in different ways, get Oliver lined up in different ways, see what they can do. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, because I don't think either defense is really, top-notch. They're not going to be able to knock the other one out completely. Both teams are going to score their points. It's just a matter, it might be one of those games, who has the ball last, All
right, so let's get a pick there for this Clearfield-Tyrone showdown.
Well, I really like Clearfield in this matchup. I think Leslier's just a tremendous athlete, and he's going to be able to really dictate the game. The game's going to run through him. I'm going to take Clearfield in that one.
Yeah, I am too. I like the size of Clearfield. I like the way that they found a way to win against Central, especially in a high-scoring game. It seems like they could score at will. So, unless Tyrone could stop them, I see Clearfield taking that. So we're going to head then down to another beautiful stadium, the Point Stadium. Johnstown, Bishop McCourt. It's It's always been a great rivalry, and I'm really excited to see that kind of played down there in that sort of atmosphere.
Absolutely. It's Bishop McCourt's homecoming. It's a big game for them. We saw McCourt last week play Westmont, and it was the first time their offense was able to click for 4 quarters. They were able to put points up. They just completely dominated the line of scrimmage on Westmont. They kind of took the guns down in the second half and kind of just let that one ride out. But, McCourt has a great passing game. Zane Tomkowski is one of the leading passers in the area. Jordan Spangler's a good receiver. Luke DeFrancesco is a big play threat. And, that running game is starting to get a little bit more credibility. They're very comfortable giving the ball to either Belsky, James, Wyatt Jackson, even Tyler Rugg will see some carries. So that they have weapons on offense. And we've seen with this defense all year long, maybe the best defensive player I've seen all year is Gap Barbin.
Yeah, he's absolutely unbelievable. His senior leadership, but also his skills. I'm not sure, Jimmy, if you just mentioned there that he had that return there against Westmont. That offense, or that defense, I'm sorry, they can force turnovers, and that's absolutely for sure, especially against this Johnstown team who, let's face it, is known to turn the ball over.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking on Gap a little bit longer, we were at the game. I was walking around the sideline, so I was field level. Not a lot of seats at Westmont, so you're kind of walking around trying to get the best spot. And the thing you see with Gap Barbin is when he's on the sidelines, even in that fourth quarter, he's yelling at the backup line, "Come on, line, block!" And when he's on the field, he has the young Christian Roman and Lake Dorn to either side of him. He's always coaching them up. He's like an extra coach on the field almost. So, his leadership really makes that defense special. They're only giving up 12 points a game. They get a bunch of turnovers. You saw them, the defensive touchdown last week. So, Johnstown's going to have their hands full. Looking with Johnstown, we know we saw Dion Moore, the exciting player at quarterback. He got a little banged up against Bedford, so his status for this game is a little bit unknown. So they're going to have Mayo at quarterback. He's more of a passer as Moore is a runner. So, Johnstown is the athletes on the outside. It's just a matter if, McCourt's D can get to the quarterback. And the way Johnstown's line is set up, we saw Michael Brooks, the tackle for Johnstown, he's hurt. So that puts a little less size and a little less pass protection for Mayo at quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. You obviously still have Subich, number 58 for Johnstown. Still, one of those seniors, really sort of the lifeblood of that offensive line there for Johnstown. So hopefully, they can put something together with Brooks out. Jim, talking about McCourt more, obviously they've had some offensive woes this year. But, what is Johnstown going to bring? Because usually, let me backtrack a little bit. Whenever you see a McCourt-Johnstown game, Johnstown's bringing the blitz all the time. And we saw with that Forest Hills game with Tomkowski, and even in the Richland game, that, Tomkowski was sort of looked like a little bit flustered from time to time with that blitz. So, I think that could cause some problems there for sure. But, you'd like to see both of these offenses get on track in the game.
Absolutely, but you talk to some people and they say, you look at Zane Tomkowski, he's this big, strong quarterback. He's not built like a lot of quarterbacks. And they say he's slow, but, once he gets the outside, he has some room to run. He can beat you there. Mm-hmm. He's not as slow as he appears. So he's always a threat out on the outside. So if Johnstown's bringing the blitz, they found some success with the screen game to Wyatt Jackson. I think they have a couple touchdowns on the year with Jackson out of the backfield. He's a quick little back. He can make some guys miss. So I'm sure McCourt's going to have a little bit of a screen game set up. They've used the tight end screen a little bit to Seawee at times. So McCourt has that element in their offense. The straight-ahead running attack, it's not as consistent as they would like it to be. I mean, they have the physical runners. They have the quick runners. They have different ways they can beat you. But, if they're going to run the ball straight ahead, I think that's what Johnstown would like to see. McCourt, they're going to have to make some plays downfield with Spangler and DeFrancesco.
That seems like that's sort of been stifled a little bit. The long downfield passes. You saw Tomkowski have that big one in that Richland game there at the end of the game. But Spangler, he was coming into a few weeks ago. He was right at the top of the area receiving list. He sort of went down a little bit. Now he's at 4th or 5. He was at 2 originally. You like to see him kind of get back on board, get some more touchdowns there. He has 4 touchdowns on the year, so hopefully, as we said, that can get back on track.
Yeah, now to speak a little bit on Johnstown, we know they have playmakers. We don't know about Dion Moore. He's just a big play waiting to happen. But then they have Mayo at quarterback. On the outside, we saw Kareem Gibson can make some plays. Philip Madison last week had some big catches against Bedford. So they have those two guys McCourt has to worry about on the outside. Of course, the running backs, Terrell Jackson, the freshman, the junior, Javon Braxton. So they have good backs. They have good receivers. It's just a matter of that line playing well. And I think with the one matchup I'm really looking forward to, if I get a chance to see any of the film on this game, it'll be the center, Nick Subich, going up against the nose guard, Gap Barbin. The two heart and souls of both teams. Subich is that team leader on Johnstown, and they're almost mirror images of each other. They rely... Johnstown relies on the play of Subich as much as McCourt relies on Barbin. So that's just going to be a fun matchup to watch. One's going to get the better of each other half the time. It's going to be an even battle. So it's going to be a key up front there. It's just going to be a fun game to watch. And, through the years, the schools are right down the street from each other. For most of the time, they haven't played throughout history. Overall, Johnstown leads the series 14-10. McCourt getting most of their wins this past 10, 15 years since the move to Laurel Highlands. Johnstown's won the past two games, and all those kids are going to want to try to keep that streak going.
Absolutely. First of all, we got to talk about this Johnstown defense led by Dalvin Williams, a senior. He has 4 sacks, just unbelievable amount of tackles this year. Really a sideline-to-sideline type of player. That's going to be interesting to see him go up against this Bishop McCourt running game. They have the different weapons with Jackson. Even Nate James has been coming in. And then obviously Dustin Belsky returning from that knee injury 2 weeks ago. And we're seeing him get a few more carries here and there too. So that's going to be interesting. There's a lot of storylines in this game, which really looking forward to. It's great for the area that they can get this rivalry still going, obviously, both in the LHAC.
Yeah, it's a big game. At the point game, going to be a big atmosphere with McCourt's homecoming and whatnot. So it definitely one to check out. We'll be elsewhere, but definitely have our eye on that one. And to make a pick in this Bishop McCourt Johnstown game, I have the Crushers winning on my picks on the D6 Sports Network, my LHAC weekly forecast. I have Bishop McCourt winning 24-10. I think Johnstown, they have the athletes to score, but they really haven't been able to put it together all season long. It could be a close game. It really could. When you get two rivals like this playing together, playing at the Point Stadium, Johnstown's old home, McCourt's home, it's just a big emotional game for both teams. But I like the Crushers in this one.
Yeah, I do too. Not to play favorites or anything, but the past 2 years, Johnstown has had they're really good teams. But that's been the first time that they've been able to beat McCourt when they had those really top notch teams. And granted, neither of these two teams are as strong as the past Johnstown and McCourt teams, but I definitely think that McCourt has the upper hand, just sort of really all around. Defensive line. Defense is stout, even though Johnstown has Dalvin Williams, but I think McCourt's offense is going to be able to keep things rolling from that Westmont game and be able to prevail in this one. Sounds good. So now we're going to head into a huge Westpac showdown. This is Portage with 1 loss, Wimber with 1 loss. Games at Wimber Stadium, great place to play. Sort of these two teams, have a lot of common. Like to both run it on the ground. Have really stingy defenses, and I think we're going to see a good game.
Absolutely. Going to be a big atmosphere at Wimber Stadium. They're kind of the two, over the past 10, 15, 20 years, rather, they've kind of been those staples in the Westpac. You saw that great Wimber dynasty from the late 90s, early 2000s. Then for a few years, Portage kind of picked up on that, and they were kind of running through the Westpac. Past couple years, they've tailed off. This year, they're back in full force, both teams. You got to talk about the running backs of both teams. Portage employs 3 running backs are doing well. You have Kephart, Giles, and Divoduck, all gaining yards, all doing well. Even Price at quarterback can make some plays happen. Wimber, on the other hand, you have Blau, you have the Tomlinson brothers, and Neri, all good, effective running backs. So it's going to be a game where both teams are going to line up and go right at each other. From seeing Wimber play, they don't run a lot of offensive plays. They do what they do. They run that wing T offense. Portage, much the same. They kind of line up and they run maybe 6 to 10 plays, probably in their whole playbook. Mm-hmm. They just come at you with what they have. Mm-hmm. One advantage I see in this game is Wimber's passing game.
Absolutely.
Gipe at quarterback has about 600 yards. He's doing well there. And Matt Barkley out at receiver. We saw him on the defensive side of the ball at Wimber make some interceptions, but they were acrobatic interceptions. So you saw what type of receiver he is. So that's one matchup you're going to see. Can the Portage pass defense really step up against that good Wimber passing offense?
Mm-hmm. Portage got got sort of a taste of a good passing offense with that North Star that week 1, and they were really able to really bottle up Tony Strazier. They used a little cover 2 look most of the time during the game, and that really works wonders whenever you can play sort of that close-up defense and then obviously have a guy over top to help out. Obviously, North Star with our quarterback, he was a guy just coming in, but Dakota Gipe, Jim, like you said, he's experienced 664 yards, 7 touchdowns on the year, 50% completion, 110 yards a game. So, definitely look for that him and to Matt Barkley connection.
Absolutely. And looking at Wimber, I was really impressed when we saw Wimber play. Their defensive line, they make a lot of plays. They're not just big guys up the middle. They can go outside. Almodovar, he made some big plays on the outside. So they have a good defensive line. You saw last year, Wimber won this game 35-7, so obviously Portage has that on their mind. Looking into this game, Wimber's going to want this game played in the upper 20s, in the 30s, where Portage, they're going to want to keep it very low scoring. They're going to want to win 13-7, something of that nature. So it's going to be a little bit of contrast to styles. Portage just want to keep it, they want it to be an ugly game. They don't want all the big plays to happen. They want to keep it close, keep it tight. Wimber's going to want to try to get out, break the big runs, maybe use Gipe in the passing game. So it's all about who can set their will in place. And, I like Wimber at home, playing in front of that crowd. It's going to be a packed house at Wimber Stadium. So it's going to be just a good old-fashioned, good Westpac battle, in my opinion.
Yeah, Jim, I think so too. I like Wimber. I like Blau running the ball, but I also like, using that play action that they can get with Gipe, and I think they can get some downfield throws, and then with that defensive line, hopefully they could stop that Portage running game. All right, guys, then we're gonna head into another ICC game this week. This is a pretty important matchup with Glendale and Moshannon Valley. Give you an idea if you guys haven't been able to follow these teams this year. They're both sitting. Glendale is 4th right now in the ICC, and Mo Valley is 5th. Glendale's actually, though, undefeated, believe it or not, in the conference at 4-0, and Mo Valley's at 2-1. So this is definitely going to be a big game for conference championship potential.
Yeah, big game in the conference, but also a bigger game in the District 6 standings. Right now you have Moshannon Valley sitting at number 6 with a 4-2 record, just 20 points ahead of Glendale at number 9. So it's obviously a big game for both these teams to try to stay in that playoff race. We've seen Glendale, they have the big playmakers, Braniff at running back, Twig at receiver. So they have good offense. They don't have a big team. They have small numbers this year, but they battle. They have the offense to stick with anyone. And you look at Mo Valley, we've seen Dipko. He's having a great year at quarterback, almost 850 yards. According to Max Reps, the kid has 10 interceptions. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a questionable. He's turning the ball over a lot. So it's going to be a tough battle. We don't know a whole lot about either teams. You haven't heard much. Just to make a quick pick, I like Glendale. I think they've. I like Braniff at running back. He's been around a couple years. He's been making plays. Twig, even in the return game, he's made plays. So I'm going to go with Glendale.
Yeah, I like Glendale too. They have a new coach. I think he was only 23 or 24 years old. So props to this young guy. Getting the job done at Glendale. Obviously, you don't hear much about these two schools in the Johnstown area, at least. So, it's good that they're going to be able to kind of get the spotlight here for this big Week 7 game. So that's going to take us into Penn Cambria and at Forest Hills. This game, what more can you say? Both fighting absolutely for their lives here in the AA playoff picture.
Absolutely. This is a huge game. Penn Cambria currently sits at number 8 in the playoff spot. Forest Hills number 9, much like that Glendale game we just talked about. A win for Penn Cambria could really knock Forest Hills out of this playoff race. They can't really afford to go 3-4, and Penn Cambria with 2 straight losses, they need to get their confidence back. So it's a big game for both squads. We've seen Forest Hills. We know Donahue has been hurt. We don't know how much longer, but if it is longer, they've turned to Jared Shope, their senior leader. They've put him into the quarterback role. That takes away a weapon on the outside, but we know Shope can run the ball, so he has that threat as well. Dell's been a good running back for them. Sneddon stepped up at receiver. It's not your typical Forest Hills team. They're not the big, strong, physical line. They don't have the depth. They don't have all the athletes, but they could still make some plays. Forest Hills, you kind of know what they could do on offense, but the way they've been getting beat is, they've been out physicaled in games. You'll look at their losses. They lost to Bishop Guilfoyle, Bishop McCourt, and Cambria Heights. all teams that pretty much just, they were just strong teams and kind of took it to Forest Hills, and Forest Hills not able to muster a lot of points in those games.
Yeah, and that's the thing that you really have to look at in this game, especially with this Penn Cambria defense. They let up 27 points last game. That was their highest total on the season. But even at that, they were still Cambria Heights fumbled the ball 4 times. So Penn Cambria right there, 4 turnovers, also had an interception. So that's real big, I think, for this Penn Cambria defense going up against Forest Hills, who again, like we said about Johnstown, is very, very prone to turning the ball over this.
Absolutely, and you talk about this game. Is there a better matchup of coaches this whole week, even in this whole season?
Yeah.
Ernie Fetzer, the legend out of Penn Cambria, and the one constant in this whole area, Don Bailey, out of Forest Hills. He's been there probably forever. So at the very beginning of Forest Hills football, Don Bailey was there. No, but these two coaches, they're great, and they have their kids playing well. This isn't the talent they're always used to having. Penn Cambria was picked to win the conference. Even at the beginning of the season, I remember Fetzer saying when he was being interviewed, we have a good team, but I don't know if we're that good. And I get, the old man knew what he was talking about, because they have some troubles on offense. They get the ball to a lot of different guys at running back, Fuller, Lawhead, a bunch of different guys. They have 2 quarterbacks. They haven't really figured out who they can rely on offense. What they can rely on is that defense with Devin Lawhead and All-State Mac Bahey. They gave 27 points to Cambria Heights, but they have a lot of pride up in Creston, and they're not going to let that happen again against Forest Hills.
Yeah, totally right. This is that do or die game. If I'm having to make my pick, I'm going to take Penn Cambria in this one.
And this was kind of my upset pick of the week. I did take Forest Hills in this one on my picks. I think the game being in Sinman, I think it's going to be low scoring. I picked a 10-8. I really don't think
that makes sense. Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. They're going to be at a premium. I look for Jared Shope, playing quarterback. I think he's going to make enough plays with his feet. He's a better passer than you would even expect for being a receiver his whole career. So I think Shope is going to just gut it up and win this game for the Rangers and keep them in that playoff race.
Sounds good to me. All right, fellas, and we're going to head into our D6 Sports Number Game of the Week. Going to be live broadcast on our site. That's going to be Ligonier at Penn's Manor. Again, what more can you say about this game? Ligonier last year handled Penn's Manor. Penn's Manor ends up going to the District 6 Single A semifinals, losing to Southern Columbia. That was their only loss on the season, that Ligonier Valley, before Southern Columbia. So, both of these schools have this game marked on their calendar. It's going to be a great atmosphere up there in Clymer, PA. So, I'm really excited for it. Jim, I know you are. What do you have to...
when we looked at this season in the summer, we talked, we were going to do Bellwood Tyrone week 1. We knew that was going to happen. And the other game we were going to do this one. We knew... Coming into this game, we thought they would both be undefeated. Penn's Manor with 1 loss, but we still knew this was going to be the game of the Heritage Conference. Penn's Manor, what they do well, they let their man do the job. Danny Ferentz, he's a 4-year starting quarterback. He's their leading rusher, leading passer. He's the heart and soul of that team. He led this team to the Final Four of Single A last season with a loss to Southern Columbia. But he is, he's the guy up there, and he's the premier player of the Heritage Conference. So anything they're going to do, it's going to run through him. He's a tremendous player, tremendous athlete. It's really going to come down to, can his line give him the time and the ability to take this game over?
Yeah, you're right. It definitely all comes down to line, and both lines, offensive and defensive lines, in this game. And Ligonier has their standout defensive end, Urch. Are they going to be able to get pressure and disrupt the backfoot of Penn's Manor? That's huge. We saw that last year with them. They were able to do that. But then obviously, though, on the reverse side of the ball, you have the Ryan Torrance and Moss connection with Ligonier. Torrance coming in, 898 yards, 18 touchdowns, tied in the area with Danny Ferentz in rushing touchdowns. And then Connor Moss, 623 yards and 5 touchdowns. So, Ligonier, they have no secrets. They're coming at you on the ground. And, if Coach Beidel and company think that they can take out Penn's Manor just on the ground, then they're going to do it. But, obviously then we have to look at the quarterback matchup. You have the Scott Fennell with Ligonier, and that adds another different dimension because we are not really sure what they have.
Absolutely, but we talked about Urch, the great defensive end, Stuart Urch, 17 sacks I hope I'm not reading that wrong, but 17 sacks. Yeah. That's nothing to joke around with. He's going to be a guy that's going to be coming at Ferens all night long. I was able to go to the Penns Manor Ligonier game last year, and it was a game where Ligonier completely controlled the game up front. Ferens was running for his life most of the night. They weren't really able to get anything going on. That double A to single A matchup, sometimes it doesn't matter, but Ligonier just seems so strong in that conference. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you wonder with Ligonier, is their talent almost being wasted in a sense? Because they come playoff time, they're not battle tested. But I think if you put a team like them in the Lower Highlands and they got to play week in and week out, they would be better. But sometimes they don't get tested as well in the Heritage. Mm-hmm. But this is going to be one of those tests this week where Penns Manor, I think, can make some plays and kind of stick around against them.
Yeah, we were thinking with that Wimber game and with Ligonier, they were going to be able to do something. But obviously, Ligonier really came out and absolutely dominated. And again, that all starts out on the offensive and defensive line. So, everything, if, I'm making a prediction on this game, everything for me is pointing with Ligonier just because of that. That dominating defensive line that they've seemed to be having. And then, nobody's been able to stop these running backs either. I think come playoff time, they will be stopped. But I think in this game, Penns Manor, I think just too small of a team. And I don't think they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, looking at last year, you saw Ligonier win at home 28-0. Then the year before, Penns Manor was able to knock them off 20-14 in Clymer. Maybe with the home crowd and all the atmosphere going on at Penns Manor, maybe they can pull one off. But I don't see it. Ligonier is too strong of a team. Up front is where they really win the game. Penns Manor doesn't have all those secondary players that they can really rely on. You have Beitner and Henderson. They're two good backs, but that's with the threat of Ferens with them. And Brown at receiver, but how much are they really going to be able to throw the ball if Urch is coming at you? So it's going to be a tough game for Penns Manor. It'll say a lot about them if they can win this game. It'll send a big message to McCourt, Guilfoyle, Bellwood, Portage. If they can knock off Ligonier, then they're definitely ready to defend their title. But I'm going to go with Ligonier this week.
All right, folks. Well, that's going to wrap it up here. Again, join us 7 o'clock on our website, d6sportsnetwork.com. We're going to be coming to you live with that Penns Manor, Ligonier Valley, huge showdown in the Heritage. And folks, as always, we really appreciate you guys listening. We love doing this for you guys. We love bringing you guys the games on Friday nights, and hopefully able to continue that tradition. And thanks for listening again, and good night.